Hey, good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar in the live mode. I've seen quite a bit of folks already connected. If you guys don't mind, we want to wait for about 2, 3 more minutes just to give a chance to someone who's late to connect to the new platform. But in the meantime, I want to welcome all of you on behalf of me, Paul Rizanov, the project coordinator of e-commerce camp, and two of my friends, G from Data Leader and James from Aging Well. So just want to check with all of you guys if you guys can hear us and if the quality of the connection is good. If you don't mind, there is a quick section for the chat. If you don't mind, just to send a quick message with your location, maybe city and country, just so we can know that you guys can hear us. If you don't mind, that's also give us a little bit of extra context of where you guys from and potentially what's the situation, how the weather looks like where you are. So if you don't mind, but sounds like if you guys posting this good. UK, Ireland, so we're already international. Manchester close by. um, awesome presentation slides, sounds like all good as well. Can you see the slides? If I can move it left, right, should be fine. So good. London, London, perfect. So it sounds like most of our attendees will be from the same time zone, but I do know there was a couple of registrations from United States. So ahead of this event, I just want to let you know that after this event, the video recording of this webinar will be available for you, as well as slides. But again, you can replay, revisit, and please, if you will have any questions about the content at any point, if you don't mind, use this question area, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll try to answer all of your questions at once. So we will be about like 30 minutes talk, as well as 15 minutes for extra questions. And in about 1 minute, we'll probably gonna start. If you guys want to kind of connect with between all of you, uh, there's a nice there's a nice way. It's to join e-commerce camp co UK newsletter. We'll have upcoming events in Manchester on September 26th. So if you have now 10 seconds, you can quickly visit to e-commerce camp co UK, subscribe to newsletter, and as soon as we have event announced, you can get the notification. But I would say we're pretty much ready to go. So it's 3 minutes. If anyone else will join, they can join us uh, as we go. So officially, welcome to our webinar. I want to introduce our speakers for today and our subject. So we'll be talking about server-side tracking and ad performance. As we probably know about, like when I'm checking projects of my clients, comparing does not matter Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce with the actual data which is on GA4, I can see a lot of like differences. Sometimes it's up to 30% transaction wise, revenue wise, etc. So that's a very hot topic now, and that's why I want to present our speakers, James Answer from Aging Well, and G Kulner from Data Leader. I'm sure they will kind of tell a little bit more about who they are when they will start the speech, but um, I think that's pretty much it from my side, guys. I mean, unmute yourself. Some quick feedback from you, James. Introduce yourself, and then G will follow, and then we'll go.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Paul. So, hello everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is James Ensor. I'm the head of sales here at Addingwell. I've been working in tech, martech, ad tech technology for the last 12 years or so, helping brands be able to use tech to solve everyday business problems. So, looking forward to taking you on a bit of a journey of what that looks like today with Addingwell. And I'll pass over to G.
Yeah, hi everyone. Hope all is well. I'm one of the co-founders at Data Leader. Been working in the marketing space now for a very long time, nearly a decade. And yes, and our platform is here to help you increase your net profits from your particular marketing channels.
Thank you guys for the introduction. I think we're just right into the content. So, James, all to
Yeah,
you.
let's go. Cool. Thanks, Paul. So let's kind of take a step back and I'll introduce what Addingwell does. So our core mission is to help you recover website visitor data that you couldn't previously track. So there's a big issue out there which is often not realized when it comes to understanding how people interact with your website. So the majority of websites that we speak to, they're only able to track around 20% of the traffic that actually lands there, which is huge. So you're paying, teams to work on your SEO, you're driving paid social spend back to your website. But the reality is all of those people you can't necessarily track. So let me show you why that is the case and kind of what happens in today's world. So like I just said, you're driving traffic to your website. Your website is a valuable asset for you that you're generating revenue from, leads, whatever it may be. To be compliant with the law, you need to ask for the consent of the user before you can start to track or collect any information about them. It really varies by industry, by country. But on average, what we see is that pop-up that comes up when you land on the website. On average, around 80% of people click that accept button to allow you as a website owner, marketeer, to be able to track those users on the website. But one of the big things that we see is that even though the user clicks, your customer clicks accept, that actually doesn't mean you can track them. And it's because there are various different technical hurdles, challenges, blockers, issues at a web browser level, but also at a user level that prevent you from being able to track them. So the beautiful red arrow that you see on this diagram shows you once you've got that consent, actually in the reality is it goes down to around 19-20% on average of people that you can track. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is how do we bridge that gap? How do we go back up that waterfall from that 20% as close as we can to that 80%? So just so you're aware of what these problems are that cause these issues with tracking. So the first is is caused by ad blockers. So ad blockers, you or I as a user, we can go and install that on our browser, or some browsers have it installed by default. They're designed to basically block any data tracking collection from your website that is the way that they work. The other issue that we often see is in the world of marketing cookies or first-party cookies. I'm sure you've heard the term. So it comes down to specific web browser-based restrictions. So as an example, if a lot of your audience is using Safari, so people that come to your website, they use Safari either on their laptop or their phone to interact with you, there are really strict tracking rules provided by Apple that limit how you can track and collect various different actions that a user does. So what I mean by that is if I let's say today that I go I do a Google search or ChatGPT, whichever. I'm looking to buy a specific product. I go through to the website. At that point with Safari, what will happen is you'll get what is known as a first-party cookie. So your website will give them that cookie which stores information about their interaction, which has a lifespan of a maximum of 7 days. What happens is, let's say a few days later, you'll maybe do a Google ad, Meta, TikTok, one of the other paid social channels, and I click that ad and come back to the website for the product that I've looked at. The first party cookie after that interaction is 1 day. And let's say then, okay, I don't make the purchase on that day, but I come back a week later by going to website.com, finding the product on the website and purchasing. In your marketing world of where do you spend your money, all of those previous events, so the attribution will be lost, and you'll be putting your attribution, how did that user convert on that last action, which was direct to the website. So the principle is that browsers make it really tricky to track users. And the last one on here is, you may have heard of Google Chrome and third-party cookies. So they're also designed to be put onto a browser by one of the partners that you might be working with, whether it's a Meta, Google, etc. But these will soon disappear. So all in all, people land on your website, but actually what happens is you end up in a world where you're not able to track the full picture. So just to give you an idea very briefly of what it looks like today on most websites out there. So how it works is all of the different partners that you work with. So if you work with like a Klaviyo, a Bloomreach, your paid media channels like Google Analytics, all of these different tools that you work with require you to deploy their pixel onto your website. That's what they say needs to happen for it to work. But the problem with this is all of the tags that you deploy collect the exact same data. So they're collecting all of the same things at the same time. They take time to load, so they all have a size. If you're using Web Core Vitals, first time to buy, it's all about having the fastest page speed. These all contribute to a lower page load time because they take time to load individually. And going back to what I just said about ad blockers, these are all blocked by an ad blocker. So on my browser, I use Chrome. If I go onto the website, even if I click accept, none of these will function because ad blockers are designed to stop them from working. So our mission is to get around that and make it as really simple as possible to do so. So we are built on Google Tag Manager. So if you're familiar with using Google Tag Manager, then using a tool like ours is actually really easy to do because you just reconfigure how you work today. So how it works is instead of loading 20 tags on your website from all of your different partners, you load one tag. That tag then sends all of the data into Addingwell, which is that bit in the middle. And then the benefits that we unlock, so the section in the bottom left is, so we can improve your website performance because we're able to remove a number of those tags off the website. That improves your Web Core Vital score because you're reducing the amount of time it takes to load the site. In addition to that, you don't need to worry about third-party cookies because we don't rely on them. And you might have heard the term server-side before. So there is a massive misconception with server-side that all of these issues I'm talking to you about are solved with server-side if you do it yourself. So the first two things that I've just said, you can solve without Addingwell, but you are limited. Where we see the real benefit is the next 4 points. So the first one is the data governance. So you can actually see what partner is collecting what data. For ad blockers, we have a method to bypass them. So you're never left in a situation where you can't collect data. For browsers like Safari, where they do have strict tracking policies, so that 24 hours to 7 days first party cookie, we have a way to extend that to be 13 months. So if you do have a buying cycle on your website that is longer than 24 hours, 7 days, you can really see actually where your marketing efforts are going and attribute properly across multiple touches on your website. And then the last part, which we won't show in the slide today, but we also monitor all of your events and tracking on your website. So for example, at 3 p.m. on a Friday, if somebody does an update to the website and one of the events breaks, so you can't send, for example, like the purchase event to Meta, then we will notify you of that in real time. So you can go and fix that problem because your paid social channels, for example, will keep spending the ad campaigns, even though they're not functioning as efficiently as they can do. And from that, we see some really powerful metrics. So I've included some on the slide here, but I'll jump into some more in a second. But effectively, what we do is we fill that gap. So that 20%, 19% we spoke about at the beginning, we try to take you as close as possible up to that 80% where people clicked allow. So you can track as many people as possible. And what you might see in your analytics tool today is that you might see some discrepancies, you're missing some key events. Our aim is to make sure that you're able to capture everything that you have the consent from the user to do. So just to go back to some metrics, I'll just talk about 3 examples that we have, and this will tee up nicely to the collaboration we have with Data Leader as well. So on Accor Hotels, so they're one of the exceptional clients who had like 40 tags deployed on their website. By removing those and switching them to the server, we've managed to decrease the page speed load time for hotel pages by 22%. So where search terms are really critical for their business, hotel in London, hotel in Birmingham, hotel in Dublin, it's really critical that they have, you know, the best performing when it comes to an SEO point of view. So that's what helps there. With MyBlend, which is a cosmetics brand, most of their audience is on Apple, so iOS, Safari type users. What we've been able to do with them is increase the amount of data they can capture from their website and send to their paid media channels. And because they were seeing a lot of new users like on the website, when they went live with Addingwell, their strategy actually switched. Their new users dropped off, but they had a lot of returning users, which told them, actually, we have a really loyal audience who we need to target in a different way. And then the last one is Maison du Monde, which is, rather than focusing on return on advertising spend, and we have an expert here to talk to us about this, is talk about a world of profit on advertising spend. And that's through doing real-time bidding, using margin data of the products to be able to focus on what's at the bottom line and improving the campaign performance. So I'll hand over to Gina. If anybody has any questions, please ask them in the chat as well, and we'll come to them at the end.
Yes, no, thank you very much for that, James. It's really insightful. So I guess I'll go over with Data Leader. So Data Leader was actually born because of a frustration that we saw. One, because obviously data coming in, etc., and how we can start scaling accounts, especially profitably, rather than just focusing on a lot of ROAS and stuff. So what we then did was going, right, okay, well, how do we kind of like centralize all of that as much as we possibly can? How can we get more granular detail coming through and combining that with our server-side tracking? Typically what we see is from like e-commerce businesses, generally speaking, is that there's anywhere between 20 and 40% wastage happening in the account. Of course, the more poorly they optimize the campaigns, the more you're probably losing. And these are from products that are just not yielding any type of profit at all. They might be still getting conversions and maybe obviously some conversion value, etc. And they might, you know, have a relatively okay ROAS. But in terms of when you look at the entire unit economy, they're probably yielding losses. So typically what we see here is, again, if it's about a £10,000 spend, again, going best case scenario is about £2,000 worth of losses, and a £50,000 spend of approximately about £10,000 worth of you know, wastage going on products, like I said, are not profitable. So we essentially created then Data Leader, so we could see things in like real time. So we could see the total ad spend, the losses that happened in the last 30 days, and the net profit that's been generated. And what that allows us to do, we can then break it down by per campaign and by per SKU. So we can then start to move the products around into, move the products around in the different campaigns and allocate budgets accordingly. So it allows us to focus on more profitable products and not the products that are essentially just yielding us losses constantly. So by doing this, again, you can, like I said, you can have a look at a bigger time frame rather than just focused on a month or a particular day, etc. Because certain conversions can take a longer time, the different conversion paths, etc. And again, by mixing that in with the server-side tracking, what we can do is you can manipulate the purchase event to send back the gross profit data rather than just the revenue data back into Google Ads or Meta or whatever it may be. And again, that again gives you a better insight into overall overall profits that have been generated from said platform. We've also implemented stop loss into Data Leader. So what is stop loss? essentially, stop loss is if a particular product has not yielded any profits over X amount of period, what Data Leader does, it recommends you to either pause that product or do something about it. The initial default is to recommend it to be paused, because if that product's not making any net profit for you, essentially it's just burning money. Because ultimately what we want to do is give budgets to products that are actually yielding profits for the business, so you can scale in the platform and again overall as a business as well. So what it recommends is then for you to look at that particular product and do something about it. So it's suggested that you should probably pause it, but keep the ones that are profitable, of course, enabled in the Google Merchant Center. And by doing this, we've seen some really good results come through. Here's some of the case studies. So we've got like Fat Cow Skincare, net profits increased 200%. Of course, we've got Tough Glove as well by 98%, and Wilson's Pet Food by 130%. And in fact, actually, Tough Glove were actually quite struggling. Wouldn't say struggling, that's probably a bit of a strong word, but they're finding it challenging to actually get their profits increasing in particular platforms, Google being one, Facebook being another, TikTok being another as well. So essentially what we did was, with the combination again with server-side tracking, instead of reporting revenue into those channels, we now reported gross profit into those channels. So they know exactly which particular products are generating them the most profit. They can scale those and those campaigns up again profitably. And it's very similar to the other two as well. Again, sending back that profit data back into Google Ads rather than the revenue, so we can then scale profitably in the account. Because when you send back a profit back into, I'm just going to pick Google Ads now, for example, instead of revenue, essentially your break-even ROAS is 1, not not like 3 or 4 when you look at it from a revenue perspective, because your gross profit should be taken into consideration all the unit economy, your picking costs, your handling costs, all that kind of stuff. And again, that's where the server-side tracking comes in really, really handy, because not only are you getting more traffic and more conversions, etc., coming through and not being blocked, but ultimately as well, again, you can then start to scale significantly better as well by having those kind of granular, intricate details. And again, the combination with server-side tracking and Data Leader, as you can see here, of course, there's multiple different channels these days. There's obviously TikTok, socials in general, Google, Microsoft ads. Again, then you've got like analytics, GA4, Adobe. The list kind of goes on. And again, as James mentioned before, all these different platforms, they're focusing on revenue. But ultimately, that doesn't matter to a business to a certain extent, right? What matters is that we're growing profitably. And that's where, if you have the right tracking in place, you're focusing on the unit economy, and you're sending the right signals back to the platform, you can ultimately help scale your platforms profitably, and again, overall as a business as well.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, Gene. I think one of the misconceptions that we often see, especially when speaking to teams, is server-side tracking sounds technical, but actually having a way that can be done no code, and you don't need to go necessarily ask for a big IT project to be done to start to drive these connections is good as well. So if you can do something quite light touch and then almost supercharge with the value that Data Leader brings with that gross profit margin as well into that, it kind of takes the campaigns to another level, right?
100%. Every business wants to scale, and every business wants to make more money, etc. And that's brilliant, and that's a great, that's the way it should be. But ultimately, the data needs to be one, obviously accurate as best as it possibly can, and then we need the right type of data in it. And by sending back that profit data back into the platforms, again, you give that more granular detail. Again, if you have a looking at products that are no longer yielding any type of net profits, if you kind of mitigate those losses as much as you can now, and then focus on the products that are actually yielding you profit, then ultimately you can help scale that particular channel, campaign, product, wherever it may be. But that's pretty much data, short but sweet. What I'll do, I'll hand over to, I'm guessing, is the any questions?
I think there are a couple of questions that I have, and obviously the audience that's here, I would like them just to think about the questions. But there are a couple of things for James. So like let's talk about, I'm a merchant, either Magento, WooCommerce, Shopify, Wonderful, custom platform, .NET, old school. I have a development team, obviously, right? And like you said, server side sounds like a very complex. What you said just now. So in theory, you don't need any development. So there is no extension that needs to be installed or plugin or some, like everything like Addingwell operates just through the GTM.
That's right, exactly. So we do have a plugin for Shopify, but to start with Addingwell on any platform, all you need to create is a subdomain. And that domain is normally like metrics.yourdomain.com. And effectively what you'll do is you'll point that to the Addingwell platform, and then everything else is configured in Google Tag Manager. So what marketers and everybody's used to using with GTM, Google Tag Manager, the interface today, will still be exactly what they use. So there is full autonomy to not go and ask the tech team to go and create or update anything on the website, really. To get started as a basis, it's just that subdomain to be created. You point it to Addingwell and you're good to go. Everything's configured in GTM.
So my question then here is that you mentioned during your talk, it's like you guys also have like integrations, all these other tools like Eclavio, etc. And all of them, obviously, they have a different interfaces, they have a different tracking codes and all that type of stuff. Is it easy for me? And again, don't get me wrong, today I'm using Klaviyo, tomorrow I'm going to use Noster. I'm always changing those tools. How easy for me to turn on the new tool?
So what we're very fortunate to have is that there's an area on the Google Tag Manager website called the Google Tag Template Library. And for most of the tech vendors, the paid social platforms, the analytics tools out there, anybody and everybody can go and create their own integration with Google Tag Manager. That's what we rely on to function. So, for example, Klaviyo have built their own tag. Any of those tags published by anybody and approved by Google, of course, on the Google Tag Template Library, out of the box, even if we haven't built it, will work 100%. And it's all configured through the Google Tag Manager interface. So I don't like to say it's as simple as, but it's as simple as grabbing your API key or keys from the platform that you're working with, and then adding those onto Google Tag Manager so everything's connected.
Okay. Well, fair enough. That's I think, and then probably the last question in this case. So you mentioned that you're actively monitoring situation when, let's say, the company deployed some changes to the website and then something is not working, right? That's what you just said.
Exactly.
It's like a proactive monitor. So let me just to clarify. If this is only GTM stuff, so in theory, on my website, I should just have a GTM script. That's it.
Exactly right. Exactly. So going back to the previous question and this one together, server-side tracking and going to figure it out yourself, it looks like a really complicated project because it is. So what Addingwell has done is simplified the whole process, and you have your Google Tag snippet already on the website. That can be connected to Addingwell. And then what will happen is all of the tagging that or the events that you've created and have set up on your website will automatically be monitored by Addingwell. So for example, if the purchase event, because it's 9 times out of 10 the most important that gets broken, if that fails or there's a problem with it, or the meta conversion API has an issue with how the data is being sent, in real time, within moments, we'll give you that insight. So you can go and fix the campaign immediately rather than 2 weeks' time, a week's time, you're looking back at the reports and say, something doesn't look right. We need to go and investigate. We need the IT team. You can ignore that. You don't need to do that. We'll give you the answer to the problem so you can go and fix it straight away.
There is a quick question here from our attendees. Does the server-side tracking increase the sales numbers, return over the ad spend, based on correct sales attribution rather than an actual increase in sale?
Yes. So the short answer is yes. Typically, what we see on average is like this is a benchmark across a lot of our clients, is it's around 22% increase in terms of return on advertising spend, and that does purely come down to having accuracy at knowing exactly as you said about where did the sale occur, what has been the purchase flow journey of that user for that to happen. So it's rather being based upon last click, but you can see how all of your marketing efforts are contributing to the conversion of a sale.
Okay. The next question is, I think is exclusively for you, James. What's the difference between Addingwell and Stape?
That is a very good question. So yes, Stape is a competitor of ours. The main differences are, so Addingwell only charges for inbound requests to the platform. So you can have as many tags as you wish on the, like you can have 1 or 10 or 50, and we won't charge you any differently. We work with an awesome network of partners, so we don't do any services in-house ourselves. We work with various different agencies that are like awesome at what they do. For us, I mean, you can judge this yourself, but for support with Addingwell, we're a team of people available through video calls. You basically get unlimited support and help with the platform to make sure everything's up and running. And the last one is in terms of your event monitoring, I believe, but don't quote me on this. There is a limit to the amount of events that are monitored on the Stape platform. I think it's 5, but I could be wrong. On Addingwell, we monitor all of your events. So we use the term unlimited. You can have unlimited tags, unlimited event monitoring. We don't restrict anything you can do with it.
I would probably add to this was on my best, because obviously we're here not to promote specific tool, but just for the Stape, as far as I know, like you have to install the extension on the website, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, on Stape you have to configure yourself, or again, I think there's extra charge if you ask them to configure that. So it's anywhere like probably like 1.5K, 3K, something like that. That's again, I remember wrong with this, but I think that is. So
and just going to interrupt you, Paul, just so I don't miss it. So there is an optional, you can update the snippet on your website as well with Addingwell. That is optional, but to go live with server side, it's just what we spoke about before. You just need to create that subdomain.
Yeah, I would probably answer if you're happy with the data that's coming on with the Stape and everything is ready configured, good for you. That's probably will be my answer. I mean, lucky you eventually, right? So like again, I don't wanna, especially Stape is Ukrainian company and I have Ukrainian background, Ukrainian roots, was like, but that's a kind of main difference as a developer. Like as a developer, eventually, I think it's platform agnostics, and then it's way more easy. So there is a question for G about the attribute, just the cost of sale, transaction, shipping, ad cost, or do you also factor fixed cost? And if so, how are those attributed? And also question about if the data leader will replace the current Google Shopping software, Product Hero.
Sure. So I'll go with the first one. So in terms of some of the costs that are involved, so we look at the unit economy per product. Again, transaction fees, picking, handling, obviously the cost itself of the product, you know, the COGS. If there are fixed costs involved, they should be added to the product cost proportionally. So for example, you know, let's just say you had a £10,000 warehouse per month, and your products, you have 10,000 products, so that's an additional £1 as part of your cost, if is probably a better way to put it. So we don't just look at some of the you know, shipping costs, etc. There are other variables that we add in, or that we recommend to be added in, again, such as those fixed costs as well. Hopefully that answers your question. The second question was sorry, could you just repeat that again for me, Paul? Sorry.
The question, do you attribute just the cost of sale transaction, shipping, ad cost, etc., or do you also factor fixed costs? And if so, how are those attributed?
No, sorry, I meant the product. Did you say the product?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically, will Data Leader replace the product hero?
Okay, it's a good question. So product here is a great tool. I know it's there to optimize your product feeds, etc. What Data Leader does is slightly different to a certain extent. So again, Data Leader can optimize feeds, etc. as well. But the main point, one of the main points of Data Leader is to look at your campaigns, your Google Ads campaigns or your Meta campaigns, whichever. Your Google Ads campaigns in a significantly more granular detail, focusing on each product at unit economy level, again at net profit level. And what you can then do is then start segmenting out your campaigns based on the net profit generated per product. So again, hypothetically, if a particular product has a POAS, or a profit on ad spend, of 5 and above, for argument's sake, move it automatically from campaign C to campaign A, for example. What we found is a lot of other tools out there, they focus mainly on like ROAS figures, or like conversions, how many conversions you've had, for example, and they typically call them, I think it's like zombies and stragglers and stuff like that. What we do is we look at the net POAS figure. So after all your costs have gone out, how much net profit has this particular product made? And that could be, a POAS of, for example, of 2, for example. And it will automatically dynamically move your products in its relevant campaign. And then again, you top that on, if you add the server-side tracking on top of that, again, you get a little bit more granular detail and a bit more information. So I wouldn't say it's there to replace it. There's many other things that Data Leader can do as well, such as automatic A/B testing of products. For example, just very quickly, if a particular product hasn't made a net profit in the last 90 days, it will automatically duplicate that product, re-optimize it, and then plug it back in as a primary feed in Google Merchant Center, and then it's readily available for you in Google Ads should you wish to actually use it. So it's always trying to find the root cause of the issue, and obviously try to increase your profits for your products, basically.
So for we do know that there are a couple of attendees, agency or like a merchants, right? On a nutshell, if I have already Google Ads account, what's my step? Let's say how I can start optimizing based on the profit, right? So I connect my Google Ads with your help to Data Leader. Data Leader making 0 changes to my Google Ads account. It's just analyzing, scanning, and giving you like report about what's your wastage as of right now. Then, just maybe kind of explain this process a little bit more.
Yes, right. I mean, essentially, it plugs in, and then you can start seeing things such as, of course, we need a couple of things from the agency or the client, such as obviously your COGS, etc. So that is the first and foremost. But then you can start seeing things in the account that Google or some other platforms out there don't show you, such as, again, net profit that's been generated per campaign at a particular product level. It can then also have a look at particular products that, again, on face value, just because a particular product or campaign has a high ROAS doesn't mean it's actually yielding you net profit. So it's kind of getting at that. It's kind of getting at that mindset of ROAS, and focusing on profit. And again, that's how you can then start scaling. So again, you plug in. We then have a look. Obviously, Data Leader has a look at what's going on, and then it essentially reports back to the agency or the client to say, hey, actually, did you know this particular product in the last 90 days hasn't done anything for you? It hasn't yielded any profit in any shape or form. This is where then the A/B testing comes in, because typically speaking, a PPC specialist can look at a data set for hours, sometimes days, depending on the size of the feed and all sorts of stuff. What Data Leader would do is just seamless, and you'll go, hey, this particular product or group of products hasn't made any net profit in the last 90 days. And that could be down to a number of factors. It could be down to the messaging on the feed. It could be the title, description, whatever it could be. It could be on the landing page. It could be the price. It could be anything. But we're trying to then go, okay, well, let's try and see if it's the feed first. So then it automatically duplicates it, re-optimizes it, and again, like I said, plugs it back in. That's just saved the agency hours and hours and hours of work. And the same with from an e-commerce side of it as well for a particular client. If it's directly with an e-commerce business, again, it's saved them a lot of time as well on their in-house team. And again, you know, what we typically find is that a lot of e-commerce clients, and I totally understand and I totally get it, they look at ROAS quite a lot. And the challenge that they then face is that when they're scaling, they're only focusing on ROAS because it's their North Star, their profits may not be there. They might be at the end of the month or quarter, whatever it may be, going, you know what I mean? Like, you know, hold on a second, you know, this campaign's telling me I've got a ROAS of 10 and blah, 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 and it's just getting bigger and bigger, but I'm not making any money. And it's ultimately because they're not pushing profitable products, or they're probably pushing products that have a low average order value, whatever it may be. But if you then switch it to a POAS model, on the other hand, and then, you know, integrate Data Leader in, so you can then see at a significantly granular level, you should, in theory, should start to see the net profits increasing as well. So that the Data Leader does many things, but what it allows again, the client or the agency, that gives them significantly granular detail that some other platforms can't. So again, going back to the product hero question, I suppose it's not there to replace it. It's not that. It's to give you more power and much more granular detail to help you scale profitably. Hopefully that answers your question. Long way to answer it.
Yeah, but I guess as a business owner, CFO, at the end of the day, you're looking at the bottom line and to see what the margin is there. So it's about driving that incrementality there, right?
Yeah, 100%. And this is it. So, you know, every platform has ROAS and every platform has this and every platform's the best and all that kind of stuff, right? They all want credit and this, that, and the other. But what it comes down to is, well, when you're doing your marketing efforts, again, it doesn't matter if it's on Meta, TikTok, this, that, and the other. It comes down to the bottom line. End of story. That's just the way it is. That's how a business is valued. That's how a business is then eventually sold. It looks at all these kind of things. And if you don't know what they are in your marketing channels, that's a bit of a concern. It's even more of a concern if your agency doesn't know what they are. So what this Data Leader allows you to do, it allows the agency to understand it a little bit more in more detail as to what's coming on and the profits in the business from said channels or channel. And it allows the e-commerce business to actually go, oh, you know what, this channel is actually really profitable for me, but you know, this channel not particularly profitable for me, so maybe we do this, that, and the other. It gives you that better insight, essentially.
There's a question. Can you explain the automated re-optimized process and adjustments, and then attribution of the fixed cost? Is this driven by the platform, or can that be guided by the retailer?
So I'll go over the automation bit first. So what it will do is the A/B testing. So Data Leader will look at a certain date range, typically 90 days. And if a particular product has not made a net profit in the last 90 days, it will automatically duplicate that product, re-optimize it in terms of title and descriptions and a couple of other attributes as well, and then essentially plug it back in as a primary feed in a Google Merchant Center. So then it's available for you in Google Ads. So that's essentially how it works in terms of the re-optimization. Hopefully that bit answers your question. But what was this? Sorry, the second bit. Sorry.
The second one, attribution of the fixed cost. Is this driven by the platform, or can this be guided by the retailer?
No, that's bits guided by the retailer. So, you know, we get all that information from you guys first. So you tell us that, again, the handling fees, the processing fees, etc. So that's actually in the client's responsibility to always make sure it's updated, regardless if you choose us, regardless if it's Data Leader, another competitor, another platform. because only you guys will really know that kind of granular detail in terms of like your COGS and your handling fees and your fixed costs, etc. What we then do is then process that information in the back end of like server-side tracking, in this case, of course, Addingwell, and then we send that information back into said platform, in this case, Google Ads. I think there was another question. Yes, so in terms of the, does this duplicate the product? Yeah, so it duplicates everything. It duplicates the entire product. So item ID 1234 is now 1234-1, for example. It duplicates the entire thing and re-optimizes it so Google Merchant Center thinks it's a new product entirely. So then you guys can utilize it in Google Ads how you wish.
So the next question is about feeding offline conversions, right? So if it's a brick and click blended model business, can Data-Libra help?
Well, do you want to take that? I have an answer for server side as well.
I mean, if you have a commerce element and an e-site, then yes, we can 100% help. If you're just brick and mortar, it probably wouldn't help as much, if I'm honest with you. It is mainly there for e-commerce sites.
James, probably go ahead.
Yeah, and just to add from a server side point of view, so on our side, we have clients that send what we call offline data, so an offline conversion back into the server, which can be fed then to your paid media channels. So, for example, if you are online and in store, and a customer looks at a product online, but then actually goes in store to complete the purchase and pays, you can feed that back into the server to then basically go back to the paid media channels to stop retargeting that specific user because the conversion has taken place.
A couple more questions. How does that feed back to the ERP system? But I think we just kind of explained a little bit, right? All right, cool. So I guess again it's 45 minutes. So I guess the big question right now, obviously, that's what I missed. We did not really put the email address for James and G, in the presentations. So guys, for you James, for you G, any questions after this event, can you send your email address here in the chat for everyone to see, right? That's number one. Number two, obviously, probably we should update the presentations and slides for other folks who would be just looking into this later on. We'll just need to update and add extra slides with your contact information so you can answer any further questions. And obviously, I assume that if there's a private discussion happen between the merchant or the agency who are interested to learn more, you guys you available for any meetings and stuff like that. Yeah. So I guess another useful things for everyone who will be, there is a quick WhatsApp group, e-commerce camp co.uk/chat. If you want to join, there is a bunch of clients of Mage Cloud in one single group. There's no sales pitches here. It's more about like I'm basically trying to build a community. So e-commerce camp co.uk/chat. Join, help each other. Will be really nice to see you there. And obviously our upcoming e-commerce camp Manchester in September 26th. If you available on that day, more information, it's on e-commerce camp co.uk. We almost ready with the line of the speakers. Will be nice to see you not just online but also offline, and that's why we are here. We wanna get connections and meet you all in the real life. And for everyone who joined, thank you very much for your time. We wish you more orders, more revenue, more profit, and obviously any questions after this talk, please address them to the speakers. And looking forward to see you on our future e-commerce camp webinars.
Cool. Thanks very much, Paul. Thanks everybody for joining today. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thanks very much, everyone. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully speak to you guys soon.